Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Alert. Today, we're diving into a huge question. Will Iraq's new global trade deals finally strengthen the dinar? Over the past few years, Iraq has been on a mission, reshaping its economic strategy. It's forging new trade agreements, strengthening regional ties, and expanding its global partnerships. All of this is part of a bigger vision, to stabilize and ultimately boost the value of the Iraqi dinar. As Iraq moves from a history of conflict toward reconstruction and modernization, investors are asking, can these new international deals really make the dinar stronger? To figure this out, we need to look at how trade deals affect a nation's currency, how Iraq's economy is changing, and whether this global cooperation can create a more stable financial future. For decades, Iraq's economy has been almost entirely dependent on oil. In fact, about 90% of the government's revenue still comes from oil exports. This makes the economy extremely vulnerable whenever global oil prices drop. But recently, Iraqi leaders have started to push for something different: economic diversification. They're expanding partnerships in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and technology. By diversifying its trade, Iraq hopes to reduce its reliance on oil and build a more balanced, stable economy. And a stable, diversified economy is exactly what you need to support a stronger national currency. So, who are these key global partners? Iraq has seriously ramped up its diplomatic and economic outreach lately. First, let's talk about China. China has become Iraq's largest trade partner, focusing on massive oil for infrastructure deals, railway and port development, and energy projects. These agreements are bringing billions in investment into Iraq's infrastructure, which is a huge catalyst for long-term economic growth. And stronger economies typically support stronger currencies. Next up is the United States. The U.S. remains a major economic partner, providing crucial support for banking reform, anti-corruption measures, and improving transparency in dollar transactions. Better financial systems build trust, and that trust makes the dinar more attractive to foreign investors. Then there's the Gulf region. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar are investing heavily in Iraq's solar energy, housing projects, and agricultural ventures. This regional trade not only improves currency stability but also expands Iraq's economic influence in the Middle East. Finally, Europe is also getting involved. European countries are showing interest in Iraq's renewable energy sector, technology infrastructure, and education. These partnerships could boost long-term productivity and create jobs, which in turn increases demand for the dinar. So how exactly do these trade deals influence the dinar? Well, it happens in a few key ways. First, they increase foreign investment. When foreign companies invest in Iraq, they need to use the local currency. More investment means more demand for the Iraqi dinar. If Iraq keeps attracting billions in foreign projects, it could push the dinar's value up. Second, they strengthen export activity. When Iraq exports goods other than oil, foreign buyers have to exchange their currency into dinar to pay for them. More exports equal higher demand for the currency. Third, they improve economic confidence. Stable international relationships are a signal of economic stability. When investors feel confident, they are more likely to hold a currency, strengthening its value. And finally, these partnerships help modernize Iraq's banking and financial systems. Reforms supported by partners like the U.S. help Iraq fight money laundering and stabilize its exchange rates. A cleaner financial system directly strengthens the dinar's global reputation. But even with all these positive developments, there are still challenges. Political uncertainty and overdependence on oil, issues with the currency auction system, and a limited industrial capacity can all slow things down. These factors don't mean the dinar can get stronger, but they could delay the process. So, can trade agreements alone boost the dinar? The short answer is no. Trade deals are a powerful tool, but they aren't a magic bullet. A currency truly strengthens when the economy is diversified, exports grow, foreign investment increases, and the central bank's policies create stability. The good news is that Iraq is moving in this direction. These trade deals are the foundation for its recovery and future strength. In the short term, the dinar will likely remain relatively stable with some gradual improvements. A major revaluation is unlikely without more significant economic reforms. But looking at the long term, if Iraq successfully expands its trade, builds its infrastructure, and modernizes its economy, the dinar could gain value over the next several years slowly but steadily. So, to answer our initial question, yes, global partnerships can and are strengthening the dinar. They bring the investment, technology and trade opportunities Iraq needs. While a stronger dinar won't happen overnight, these global connections are laying the groundwork for future stability and appreciation. The key is for Iraq to stay on this path of reform and smart economic management. After years of instability, Iraq is stepping back onto the world stage, forging new friendships and signing major trade deals. This global push isn't just about politics. It's a key part of a much bigger plan to build a stronger, more stable Iraqi dinar. So, the big question on everyone's mind is, can these international partnerships actually boost the dinar's value? Let's break down how global trade, economic reforms, and Iraq's new alliances could reshape its financial future. For decades, Iraq's economy was a one-trick pony, oil. When oil prices were high, the country thrived. When they dropped, the economy tanked. To break this cycle, the government is now focused on diversifying its economy. Think bigger than just oil fields. We're talking about a major push into agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and even renewable energy and tech. A diversified economy means more income streams, which creates a more stable foundation for the national currency. So, who are Iraq's new friends on the global stage? The list is growing and is impressive. First up is China. Through the Oil for Projects Agreement, China is helping build critical infrastructure like power grids, railways, and ports. Strong infrastructure is a classic sign of a healthy, growing economy, which tends to attract investors and strengthen the local currency over time. Then there's the United States. Despite some political friction, the US and Iraq are working closely on modernizing the banking system. They're focused on improving transparency, controlling dollar transactions, and fighting corruption. A clean and trustworthy financial system is absolutely essential for building international confidence in the dinar. Let's not forget Iraq's neighbors. Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar are pouring billions into Iraq. They're investing in massive solar farms, new housing developments, and large-scale agriculture projects. This regional cooperation brings financial stability and increases trade, creating a powerful economic bloc. Finally, European nations are also getting involved. They're helping Iraq with green energy projects, modernizing the oil sector, and building up its digital infrastructure. These partnerships are all about long-term productivity, which is another key ingredient for a stronger currency. So how exactly do these trade deals help the dinar? It's pretty straightforward. When foreign companies invest in Iraq, they need to convert their dollars or euros into Iraqi dinar to pay for labor and materials. More investment means more demand for the dinar, which helps push its value up. Also, as Iraq starts exporting more than just oil, like agricultural products or manufactured goods, buyers will need to use dinars for some of these transactions. Higher exports mean more people are using the dinar, which stabilizes its value. And honestly, having stable relationships with major global powers just makes Iraq look like a safer bet for investors. More confidence leads to more foreign money flowing in, which supports the currency. But let's be realistic, it's not all smooth sailing. There are still some major obstacles. Political tensions can flare up and scare away investors. Iraq is still heavily dependent on oil, so price swings will continue to affect the dinar for now. Plus, problems like corruption and a weak domestic manufacturing base still need a lot of work. These issues won't stop progress, but they can definitely slow it down. So, are these trade deals a magic bullet for the dinar? Not exactly. No single agreement will cause the dinar to suddenly skyrocket. But what they are doing is building the foundation for a healthy modern economy. For a currency to get stronger, you need a broad economic base, political stability, foreign investment, and strong financial institutions. Iraq is slowly but surely ticking all of these boxes. In the short term, we'll likely see the dinar remain relatively stable, with small improvements as these reforms take hold. But in the long run, if Iraq stays on this path signing deals, modernizing its economy and fighting corruption, the dinar has a real potential for slow, steady, and meaningful growth over the next several years. These global partnerships are guiding Iraq toward a brighter economic future, and a stronger dinar is a very likely part of that journey. For years, everyone's been watching the Iraqi dinar, wondering when it will regain its strength. Well, a major shift is happening right now. Iraq is signing new trade deals and forging partnerships all over the globe. But the big question is, will these global alliances actually make the dinar stronger? Let's break it down. For decades, Iraq's economy has been all about oil. It's profitable, sure, but it also means that when oil prices drop, the whole country feels it. To fix this, Iraq is finally diversifying. They're pouring resources into agriculture, tourism, renewable energy, and technology. Think of it like a stock portfolio. You wouldn't put all your money into one stock, right? A diverse economy works the same way, protecting the country from shocks and creating long-term stability for the dinar. So, who are these new partners? Iraq's foreign policy has taken a major turn toward cooperation. First up, China. China has become one of Iraq's biggest trade allies. We're talking massive infrastructure projects, new power grids, better transportation, and modern ports. When a country's infrastructure gets a facelift, its economy becomes more efficient, which is a great sign for its currency. Next, the United States. The US is still a key partner, but the focus has shifted. They're helping Iraq monitor dollar transactions, strengthen its banking system, and fight corruption. A transparent and trustworthy financial system is absolutely essential. When the world trusts your banks, they're more willing to trust your currency. Then there are the Gulf nations. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE are investing heavily in Iraq. They're funding green energy projects, boosting food production, and developing new industrial zones. This regional teamwork helps integrate Iraq's economy with its neighbors, creating a powerful economic bloc. And let's not forget Europe. European countries are bringing in technical know-how. They're helping with renewable energy, technology education, and modernizing the oil and gas sector. This helps create a skilled workforce and brings Iraq's industries up to global standards. So how do all these trade deals actually help the dinar? It works in a few key ways. First, more foreign investment means higher demand for the dinar. When companies from China or Europe invest in Iraq, they have to exchange their currency for dinars to pay for labor and materials. Basic economics, higher demand can lead to a higher price. Second, a boost in non-oil exports supports the currency. As Iraq starts exporting more agricultural products or manufactured goods, international buyers will need to use the dinar for some of these transactions. This increases the dinar's use on the global stage. Third, strong international relationships build investor confidence. When a country has stable diplomatic ties, it looks like a safe and predictable place to invest. This trust attracts more money and more support for the dinar, but it's not all smooth sailing. Iraq still has some major hurdles to overcome. Internal political disagreements can create uncertainty and scare off investors. The country is still heavily dependent on oil, so market swings will continue to affect the dinar until diversification really takes hold. And while the currency auction system is improving, there are still issues with smuggling and financial leaks that need to be fully resolved. So will these trade agreements be the magic bullet for the dinar? Not by themselves, and not overnight. Think of it this way. These partnerships are laying the foundation for a skyscraper. You can't see the building yet, but the essential groundwork is being done. A strong currency needs a stable political climate, a diverse economy, and an efficient financial system. Iraq is making progress on all these fronts, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. In the short term, we should probably expect stability rather than a dramatic surge in the dinar's value. But for the long term, the picture looks much more promising. If Iraq stays on this path, expanding its trade partnerships, modernizing its economy, and tackling corruption, the dinar has a real chance to gradually strengthen over the coming years. So, are these global alliances helping? Absolutely. They're bringing in the investment, the knowledge, and the stability that Iraq needs to build a healthy modern economy. And a healthier economy is the first and most important step toward a stronger Iraqi dinar. The pieces are finally falling into place. Have you been watching the Iraqi dinar? There is a lot of buzz right now because Iraq is making some major moves on the world stage. It's signing new trade deals, forging partnerships, and opening its doors to global markets like never before. This has led many to ask a huge question. Could these international connections actually boost the value of the Iraqi dinar? To find out, we need to dive into how trade affects the currency and what is really happening inside Iraq's economy. For decades, Iraq's economy has been all about oil. While oil money is great, relying on it so heavily makes the country vulnerable whenever global prices drop. Iraqi leaders know this, and they're now focused on building a much more diverse and resilient economy. They're pouring resources into agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and even technology. The thinking is simple. A country with many income streams has a more stable currency. That's exactly the goal for the dinar. So, who are these new partners? Iraq has been busy building bridges. First, there's a strengthened partnership with China, which is investing billions in massive infrastructure projects like new power grids, roads, and ports. This isn't just about construction. It's about building a stronger foundation for the entire economy. Then there's the United States. Despite some political complexities, the U.S. is playing a key role in modernizing Iraq's banking system and improving financial transparency. A trustworthy financial system is crucial for making the dinar more appealing to global investors. We also see growing ties with Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. They are investing heavily in renewable energy, agriculture, and new industrial zones in Iraq. These regional partnerships are vital for improving stability and connecting Iraq to its neighbors. European nations are also involved, offering expertise in clean energy and technology to help upgrade Iraq's workforce. But how do these trade deals actually help the dinar? It works in a few ways. When foreign companies invest in Iraq, they need to exchange their money for dinars to pay for projects and workers. This increased demand for the dinar helps support its value. Also, as Iraq starts exporting more than just oil, more foreign buyers will need to use the dinar, which adds to its stability. Strong international relationships also build confidence. When the world sees Iraq as a stable and predictable place to do business, more investment flows in. Plus, these agreements often push Iraq to reform its financial systems, making the dinar a more credible currency on the global stage. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. There are still obstacles. Political uncertainty can make investors nervous. The economy is still heavily dependent on oil, so price swings remain a risk. And there are ongoing challenges with currency auctions and smuggling that need to be fully resolved. These issues won't stop progress, but they can definitely slow it down. So, are these global partnerships enough to strengthen the dinar on their own? The honest answer is no. Trade deals are a powerful piece of the puzzle, but they aren't magic. For the dinar's value to truly rise, Iraq needs a stable political climate, a genuinely diverse economy, and transparent financial institutions. The country's moving in the right direction, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. In the short term, we're more likely to see the dinar remain stable rather than experience a dramatic surge. But looking at the long term, if Iraq continues on this path expanding trade, fighting corruption, And modernizing its economy, we could see a slow and steady strengthening of the dinar over time. To sum it up, Iraq's new global partnerships are incredibly important. They're bringing in the investment, knowledge, and infrastructure needed to build a robust modern economy. While these deals won't cause the dinar's value to skyrocket overnight, they are absolutely laying the essential groundwork for a stronger economy, and a stronger dinar could very well follow. Have you seen the recent explosion of chatter online? There's a massive buzz going around, and it's all about a potential revaluation of the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong, possibly as soon as 2025. Now, hold on, I know we've heard whispers like this before, but this time feels different. The online reaction has been incredibly intense, sparking a huge debate between investors, analysts, and skeptics. So what's fueling all this? Let's dive in. Over the last few weeks, a number of self-proclaimed insiders have dropped some pretty bold statements. They're hinting that major global banks are quietly coordinating behind the scenes for a massive currency event. The claim is that large banks in the US, Europe, and the Middle East are getting their systems ready to handle a sudden jump in the value of the dinar and the dong. According to these reports, some banks are testing new digital platforms, tweaking international payment channels, and setting up compliance frameworks. The idea is that these are all preparations for a major RV. Now, to be clear, none of this is officially confirmed, but it's been enough to get everyone talking. As you can imagine, the currency community is completely divided on this. On one side, you have the believers. They see this new information as the strongest sign yet that a 2025 revaluation is not just possible, but likely. They point to positive developments like new projects in the region, stabilizing oil markets, and ongoing financial reforms in both Iraq and Vietnam as solid evidence. For this group, the idea of banks getting their systems in sync is the final piece of the puzzle, hinting that something big is truly in motion. Then you have the skeptics. They're quick to point out that we hear these kinds of rumors every few months, and they usually lead nowhere. Their advice is to be extremely cautious and not make any financial moves based on unverified online chatter. They argue that banks upgrade their systems all the time for a variety of reasons, and it's a huge leap to interpret these routine updates as a secret signal for a currency revaluation. They're urging everyone to stick to the facts and avoid getting caught up in the hype. Finally, there's a third group, the neutral observers. These are the people watching from the sidelines, not fully buying into the claims but not dismissing them either. They recognize that the world of global banking is changing fast, but they also understand that for a major revaluation to happen, a lot of complex geopolitical and economic stars need to align perfectly. They're taking a wait-and-see approach, keeping an eye on developments without jumping to conclusions. So why is everyone suddenly so focused on the year 2025? Well, many of the people pushing this narrative believe 2025 will be a year of major shifts in global financial policies. Iraq is expected to make significant progress with its economic reforms, while Vietnam's economy continues to boom as a key manufacturing hub in Asia. Supporters of the RV theory believe that both countries might adjust their currency values to better reflect their growing economic strength. However, it's crucial to remember that no credible economists have backed these claims, and no government has made any official announcements about an RV. One of the most concerning things about this whole situation is how quickly misinformation is spreading. We're seeing unverified videos and posts claiming to have insider confirmations go viral, racking up millions of views. Many of these sources offer zero real evidence, yet they manage to create unrealistic expectations, especially for new investors who might not know better. Financial experts are warning everyone to be careful. So, what do the professionals recommend? Most analysts are urging people to follow official statements from central banks, not social media trends. They say to watch real economic indicators and be wary of anyone promising big announcements out of the blue. They emphasize that while the idea of a currency revaluation is exciting, credible information should always be your top priority. In the end, this renewed excitement about a 2025 dinar and dong RV has definitely stirred things up, but the truth is still a mystery. Until we get verified information from official sources, all of these claims are just speculation. But one thing is for sure, the world's interest in these currencies isn't going away. If real updates do come out, the impact could be massive. For now, the community remains divided, energized, and very impatiently waiting for what happens next.